Raychaudhuri also now joining us from BNP Paribas. Manishi, good morning. I know we've called you for budget, but before we discuss that,
Good morning.
If I'm not wrong, you guys are contra long on IT. Are you surprised by the kind of de-rating we are seeing now?
To some extent, yes, but at the same time, we must remember that stocks always move on sentiment, and in the short term, they react on news flare. So it is something that we have to live with. And this is, after all, something vital, something that's important, something that's going to impact the sentiment over the long term as far as IT stocks go. Having said this, we have, our IT analyst has published a note today, and we're saying that the kind of margin compression that investors seem to be factoring in, it seems to be overstated. In fact, it would not only be relatively muted in the near term, it would also be long drawn out as far as the impact on earnings go. So to that extent, I think this severe derating that the sector is having is also to some extent opening up a buying opportunity.
Govind has been patiently sitting with us. Govind, the final question to you. How is the global environs looking in terms of fund flows to EMs in general and India in particular, and your take on IT as well?
Okay, so after seeing a big drawdown in the fourth quarter, particularly in November and December, the correlation between India and the emerging markets was very high in November, December. The flows have turned neutral to marginally positive of late. And the sense we get talking to fund managers is that the sentiment on EM equity allocation is actually improved. Okay. And within that, while through 2016 fund managers were overweight India relative to EMs, they did cut their overweights a bit, but they're still overweight. And I think all the adjustments in terms of portfolios are largely done. So from here on, the allocations to India and flows to India will mirror what is happening with the rest of the emerging markets. On IT, my view is similar to your other panelists. I think there are severe structural issues, no denying that. In fact, more than the visa issues, I'd be more worried about automation and other long-term issues that many of these companies will have to be faced with. But having said that, you have to remember that you're talking to somebody who's fairly cautious on the overall market. I think there are severe growth challenges both to domestic market as well as to globally linked companies. And within that context of cautiousness, IT in terms of risk reward seems fairly fine to me. So I will be overweight IT, not because the businesses are going to do fantastically well in the near or medium term, but because they look better positioned than most of the other sectors in India.
All right, that's a reality touch. Thank you very much, Govind, for joining us with your views. Manishi, what's the one number that you will look for? We, after all, have invited you for the budget. What will you look for in the budget?
Three things, mostly. Because over last 3 or 4 budgets, we have seen a boost to investments. This time around, we think the budget would also try to provide a boost to consumption. And at least in the immediate term, there's only one way to do that, which is readjusting the tax rates or the income brackets for the tax. So this budget will have to be a tightrope walk. At the same, on one hand, the budget will have to provide an incentive both to investment and consumption. On the other hand, it can't simply throw caution to the wind and sorry, and kind of tinker around with the FRBM mandated fiscal deficit target. I think the fiscal deficit target may be relaxed slightly, somewhere close to where we were in fiscal 2017, but not very drastically. So, the things that we would look forward to are, number one, the assumptions that go into the budget in terms of the growth targets, in terms of the fiscal deficit and divestment targets in particular, because those are the areas of slip-ups that we have seen historically. And finally, what innovative ways the budget adopts to curtail consumption, curtail expenditure, so that there's a leeway provided for providing incentives to both consumption and investments.
Okay. Well, let's just invite our techies, our tech